Alright guys, CWL here, back again today. Another fair few things to discuss, following up from yesterday's video talking about how the sliding seems to have been broken, and yes indeed it was reported by Matt Scrons, one of the developers over at Trek, that it was indeed a bug and they are working on a fix, but as of now we don't have any confirmation as to when that fix is coming, if at all, and whether the pros will be forced to play on the old patch. Still, pros are talking about how they really can't scrim on this new patch, and also some other issues that have happened with the game as a result of the update, which really is a classic. So yeah, like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always. And firstly, I just wanted to talk about this very quickly because you know, if you guys saw this on Twitter yesterday, Courage, Jack Courage Dunlop, former, of course, Call of Duty caster, did like basically a music video kind of thing with Ariana Grande. At least she was in it. It was kind of like a parody thing going on. But honestly, like, this isn't really talking about Courage more generally, even though, you know, obviously Courage's brand has played a part in this. It's really about 100 Thieves. At the end here, it says, you know, this is 100 Thieves production, and, you know, they met up at the end, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And look what 100 Thieves are doing. It's honestly remarkable just to think how Nadeshot a few years ago, let's just go back to this point in the video or something like that, just to play it for you guys. So Nadeshot a few years ago was just this kid, 19-year-old, working at McDonald's. He gets this opportunity to become this Call of Duty legend that he has become today. Started up 100 Thieves, didn't work out for him. Then he moved on and, you know, has recreated the brand and has, you know, come full circle with it. It's one of the biggest growing esports brands more generally. It's really invaded as to, you know, some degree of popular culture. And now he's got guys like Scooter Braun on board with the team who are able to put together stuff like this with Courage and Ariana, because Scooter Braun has worked with a lot of these big stars in the past. So honestly, Nadeshot and Courage more generally are just balling out of their minds. It's honestly pretty great to see, even though, you know, Courage I guess has changed from the personality he was when he was in the Call of Duty scene, but still, you know, to see some of these guys that have been in CoD and have been massive names in the scene for a while move on to the point they are now in their careers, it's really great to see, and gives a bit of hope that others of us maybe who want to be involved in the Call of Duty scene could do something similar, who knows. So to continue this train of thought, Rich Campbell, who you may know, has been on the stream a couple of years ago. I think he was even back at Miami hosting the Open Bracket desk. He is going to be, he's kind of, the Dota 2 community have kind of fallen in love with Rich, and he's going to be at the International, the biggest esports event of all time every single year. TI9, it's $30 million prize pool at the very minimum at least. And Rich is going to be there helping present it. So really cool things to see once again, and we can move onwards from this into some more pressing stuff. This I saw on Reddit the other day, and I thought I would, I think maybe even today or yesterday, let's make it this big. I thought I would bring this to your guys' attention, and just as a bit of a throwback here, this was what, this is Gridlock of course, this is what Gridlock looked like in the Black Ops 4 beta, and or beta, whatever. This is the orientation of how these like showers or whatever these are were orientated. Nowadays they are placed the other way, and they can be wall banged, and the lanes down the side are very narrow. Interesting really their decision to change this around, because, you know, having them the way they are now creates these little campy spots where you can sit on like this little ledge here. If you imagine this swinging around 90 degrees, you can sit on this little ledge, wait for people to come past. Maybe it adds a slight more degree of complexity to this area, but it also makes it pretty damn random in 5v5s. Maybe it would make more sense if there was more room to engage in gunfights like this in the beta. So I wonder what you guys thought about that, or at least to bring it to your guys' attention that, you know, things have changed since the beta. Maybe this wasn't the best thing to do, and maybe Gridlock would play better without this, because it always is a bit of a mess when things start going down on this side of the map on Gridlock. Moving on to this slide situation then, Tony Flame says, sliding has been a little faster than intended since our update yesterday. We've identified the source of the issue and are working on a fix. So I wonder if this is dexterity related, as some people have suggested that possibly this update made dexterity very, very strong as a perk, or added to that aspect of the game. The dexterity extends your slide. Maybe this this update unintentionally extended that. But just to make it clear, it was an unintentional fix. Today is Thursday. Call of Duty World Champ starts next Wednesday, so this needs to be done ASAP, and as far as I'm aware right now, looking at things, it doesn't seem to have happened yet, which obviously is genuinely a massive deal, and it may be a storyline coming into Champs that, well, this Champs may have been more random as a result of the lack of practice, or at least the difficulty in practicing that some teams are going to experience as a result of this. And yeah, Matt Scront says basically the same thing here. If this is going to load in a second, Marky B says, is the slide bug going to be fixed? Anyone? Hey Mark, we're digging into what's going on with the slide. Any slide changes you guys are seeing are not intended. Hope to have an update to share soon. And yeah, Clay implies that maybe it has something to do with dexterity. And, you know, Scrap says the following, or at least this was a tweet yesterday. Look at this, boys and girls. 6 days before Call of Duty World Championships, the game is ending on Scrap CG when they're in the hard point. Like, let's have a look at this again. He hops in 249 to 220, and the game ends despite his team being in the hill. I've seen this happen before earlier in the year on maps like Hacienda, when the player in Scrap's position here, or like in his teammate as well, are both jumping in the air. So for some reason, sometimes when you jump in the air, it won't think you're in the hard point. You know, glitches like this cannot be happening. And you know, I think it's time for Trek to release the full game, because this is honestly, and Slacked made a tweet about it, like something at Call of Duty World Championships is going to happen and it's going to be a big deal. Of course, Scraps versus Luminosity was the thing at CWL London where the whole control situation happened, where, well, FaZe got the final kill and they should have technically won by the rules, but the game decided that LG were going to win because they had defended it for long enough, even though I think Zuma got the final kill just seemingly in the nick of time, an issue which they have since fixed but costed FaZe pretty big time at that event, when losing a map that they should have won. And something like this again happening to Scraps and FaZe Clan here in scrims against Reciprocity is really not something you want to see a couple of weeks out, well, a couple of weeks, what am I saying, 6 days out from Champs. B-Sport Josh, great, the equipment glitch is back in S&D. When you change class, it fully resets your progress. So your equipment, you're building up a star, whatever. Apparently, when you change class, it fully resets your equipment, which you don't like to see. He also reckons that when you're defusing the bomb and you try and like shoot your teammate, whatever you'd want to do that, it ricochets the bullets, but I think maybe that was enabled already. And yeah, Tony Flame says apologies about that one, that's unintentional. Moving onwards from this then, we have the following. This is what the title of the video is about. Potentially, or at least it might be on the cards, that Stock 2 could be un-GA'd at Champs. I don't know to what degree this is legit. I don't know to what degree the pros are joking around at this point, but I think Temp kind of started it saying, I'm using Stock 2 at Champs, letting you all know now. And of course, Stock 2 is an attachment which has kind of been gentleman's agreemented off the Sorg for the majority of the year. The start of the year, Dylan Envoy especially was well known for using the Sorg with like double stock and like nothing else. He would just run around with double stock, just shredding people with it. And since the Sorg buff, Stock 2 Sorg would be absolutely monstrous, especially in the hands of the pros. Now, the possibility that these guys are going to un-GA it for Champs is always something that, you know, we can talk about for days on days, because the idea that if you go into a World Championship Grand Final or whatever, would you break the gentleman's agreement in a Game 5 in order to win yourself a chip? You know, like, is that something that you would do when if you win 800 grand compared to coming second, you win 260 grand? Obviously, there's a lot of pride and the like at stake. You might be blacklisted, whatever. If it's going to give you the possibility to have an advantage, is that something you would consider doing? Maybe Temp and Spice are in a position where they're like, this team really isn't working great. Boys, let's just use Stock 2 because it's not technically banned. Just between the pros, they've decided it might not be worth using it. And I don't know if this is a decision come to people behind the scenes. I probably think this is just some sort of joke. It's likely it is, because the Sorg is already strong enough as it is. It would be very surprising if they decided to un-GA Stock 2, because if they did, that would make it unbelievably powerful. We're already seeing 2 SMGs, or sorry, 3 Sorgs, even on some maps. So I doubt this is something to take particularly seriously, but at least I'd bring the possibility to your guys' attention, because just imagine Dylan CoD and Envoy and Hook and Sim, for example, with a double stock Sorg. They would be running circles around everyone, and you might even have to pull out like another Sorg or something on certain maps perhaps certain teams would definitely benefit from this. You know, you've got teams like Spike with Temp, Hook, and Jerd on one squad, and you know, even the rest of their players are pretty damn quick. So maybe, you never know, you know, some people might break the gentleman's agreements. I'm sure some people will do it. Maybe the open bracket teams that are, you know, struggling to get a victory up against some very strong pro teams in their pools at champs, they may decide, all right, okay, we're just going to break out stock 2, or we're going to break out something else that's gentleman's agreemented to give ourselves a better chance, because at the end of the day, this is, you know, in maybe their opinion, this is their best shot to actually get something done at champs. Maybe they have an achievable pool. Maybe it's in their best interest just to break this GA this one time, even though a lot of the time you would say that it's not in your best interest to do that, because then if you ever do get a chance picked up by a pro team, then people are going to be looking at you thinking, aren't you that guy who pulled out the Rampart or pulled out stock 2 at champs a couple of years ago, whatever the case may be. Probably not worth it, but something worth bringing to your guys' attention. This is actual Temp's tweet here. Classic says, same, I'm using the Rampart, which you know what that means, baby. LG, and then you're not even LG anymore. UIU nowadays are taking home the trophy, baby. Classic on the Rampart back at Fort Worth was another beast, but hasn't been that on the Maddox quite since. Now, Intel Call of Duty says the same. I just voted in this whatever way. I didn't really look at it, but a lot of GA talk today because of the current state of the game after the recent update, but I'm sure once it's fixed, the GA list will remain the same, but we'll see. Just the community's perspective on this one. I kind of, I'm definitely edging towards the GA list is needed one, but I just kind of clicked on it to see what the results would be, because I didn't think it particularly matter what I voted for. And still, you know, the majority of people here saying, or maybe a lot of people did what I did and just clicked on something random, but the majority of people wanting pros to be using everything in the game, which is pretty interesting to me. It's obviously a debate that we can have long into the future, and we've talked about it in the past, but thought I'd bring it to your guys' attention. Another tweet here from Crone saying that, as I said yesterday, with this midnight situation potentially being franchise related to do with the Minnesota franchise spot, from what Intel Call of Duty Crone has heard, New Zealander, from what I heard behind the scenes from a few people and judging from her new Twitter handle, I have reason to believe Midnight will be working for the Minnesota franchise. No confirmation on what her exact position would be. So if you guys are a fan, then, you know, keep that in mind. We wait until Friday. She's going to be general manager, no cap. And this from Chad Larson, which is kind of funny. So CWL New York City, one of the new franchise spots that's been bought up by not a traditional like Call of Duty name. It's a venture capital investment, I think. Hello, thanks for your interest in some of Rex Call of Duty players. If you would like to discuss opportunities, please email us. I would appreciate you contacting directly instead of sending private Twitter DMs to our players. So yeah, New York City trying to cop that Dylan COD magic for the upcoming franchise league. And just to leave you with this for the last couple of minutes, pretty hot take here from Patrick Aches Price. I wondered if you guys had any thoughts on it. Hardpoint hasn't been good since Black Ops 2, he says. Let's play Dom/S&D next year. Now, I don't know when he says Dom/S&D, he wants just like 2 game modes. You want to play like Dom, S&D, Dom, S&D, Dom, like, or however you're going to do it. That sounds tragic. You need some sort of third game mode, but maybe he's implying that you keep Control or keep CTF or something like that. Domination, in my opinion, was not a good game mode in Ghost for competitive play. I do not think it played well, but maybe you guys have different opinions on that. I think really the more interesting part of this is Hardpoint hasn't been good since Black Ops 2. I would disagree with this take. I think that in Infinite Warfare it was very, very good. I kind of agree that in Black Ops 4 and maybe in the Jetpack games it hasn't been as strong. I think in Infinite Warfare the spawns towards the end were very, very good. The maps made a lot of sense. I really liked it in that game. And it was, of course, great in Black Ops 2 as well. But, you know, whether Hardpoint could be replaced as a better game mode is difficult to say. In my opinion, I think it's the best game mode we have. I really like Search and Destroy, but when I look at Call of Duty on the whole as an esport, I think, well, you know, Search and Destroy, if we just played Search, as some people have implied, I think we would be, like, wildly overshadowed by a lot of other esports. Like, CSGO does it to a much greater depth and detail in S&D than we have. I think Hardpoint really is our differentiator. I think it's a really great fast-paced game mode that makes sense and is pretty intuitive to viewers. It's pretty easy to pick up. You know, you really get some big plays. It has a calm before the storm effect as teams are rotating to different hills. I honestly think it's a really great game mode. But yeah, that's just my opinion. So yeah, leave your thoughts down below on anything I discussed today. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new as always. I would greatly appreciate it as always, and I will see you next time.